Okay, Warren. You guys ready? Except me or you? All right, good evening. Believe it or not, it's July 19th, 6:30 in the evening, and welcome to the Village of Royal Palm Beach Council Budget Workshop. At this time, I'm going to ask Diane to show that all members of council are present. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, hope everyone has been enjoying their summertime, and hopefully everyone's gotten a little vacation time in and enjoying the extremely South Florida weather that we've been experiencing. Tonight we'll have our budget workshop meeting, and immediately at the conclusion of that meeting, we'll adjourn and then re-adjourn and reconvene and have a regular council meeting. So those of you who are here with business for the regular council meeting, just stick with us and listen to us as we go through the budget review. And Diane, I've already told you, right? Everybody's present. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over, starting with the village the budget message, and we'll proceed from there with the presentation from our finance director and all of the members of the department heads. So, Ray, you're on.
Good evening. Well, this year's budget is the first year that no money was used from the rate stabilization fund to balance the budget. We're maintaining the 1.92 millage rate, and we funded all items from the strategic plan. We do have some employee changes in there that we'll go into a little bit more detail when we get to each of the departments. But in a short summary, engineering and planning picked up a half of employee in each, making a full-time instead of sharing a secretary. They each will have a full-time secretary next year, and that will help us in project management and capital projects. It'll also help us in development review and customer service times there. In the Parks Department, we've made quite a bit of changes with the anticipation of the Cultural Center opening up and having the ability of it to work more of a convention and business center. And so we moved some people from recreation, from parks into the Cultural Center, and have created kind of two divisions within the Cultural Center, which will be the Cultural Center staff and then the Commons Park staff. And even though a lot of shifting of people, the overall additional full-time equivalents was one full-time employee. So, but it does make quite a bit of difference. It does give a half a full-time equivalent to assist our program coordinator with the seniors. So that's a new part-time position in that task, and it will put us in a position where at the Cultural Center and at the Commons, we'll be always, when they're open, we'll be able to have full-time employees present. So with that, I'll just turn it over. The best news is maintaining the same tax rate and not using any of the rate stabilization fund to balance the budget.
That is good news.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Stan Hockman, our finance director.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I present to you the proposed summary budget for fiscal year 2019. The total budget is $44.3 million. General operating is 55% of that. Capital projects is 7%. Reserves are 15%, and stormwater is 3%. Our highlights this year is the values of our property are once again up again, projected at 6.5%. As stated by the manager, our tax rate has been maintained at 1.92. Staff changes in planning and zoning, engineering, and parks and recreation have occurred, and I'll get into that later in the presentation. We've incorporated all the strategic plan initiatives as stated. Our ad valorem tax overview, as stated, the values have increased by 6.5%. A prior year value of $2.6 billion is now $2.8 billion, a total increase of $176 million. Again, maintaining the operating millage rate at 1.92 mils per thousand. The impact of the total proposed millage rate of 1.92 on homes valued at 145, 204, and 263,000 are $182, $296, and $409 respectively. General fund revenue, $24.5 million. Property taxes comprise 21% of that number. Other taxes and fees, 25%. Licenses and permits, 12%. Intergovernmental revenue, 18%. Charges for services, 2%. Fines, 2%. Miscellaneous, 4%. And current year fund balance, 16%. On the expenditure side, personal services, 42%. Contractual services, 40%. Those contractual services are comprised mainly of the Sheriff's Office contract, so effectively 82% is personal services, which is right in line with what a municipal government should be doing. Other charges and services at 14%, commodities at 3%, other operating expense at 1%, department capital outlay and grants and aid at less than 1%. Expenditure summary, merit adjustments are programmed at 3.5% for all employees. Cost of living adjustment, 2%, is included based on the 12-month running average from April to 217 to March 218 of the CPI. Medical insurance cost premiums will be based on market projections. Continuing with the expenditure summary, as stated above, planning and zoning and engineering are having staff changes, and as alluded to, there is one administrative assistant shared by both departments. That one administrative assistant will be going to one department, and the other department will get one of their own. So effectively, a one-person change. Parks and Recreation, they have an addition of a program coordinator and a facility attendant, and they're deleting a temporary bus driver and a permanent part-time bus driver. Stormwater Utility Fund of $1.156 million. Stormwater utility fee comprises 78%, and fund balance is 22%. On the expenditure side, personal services are 46%, contractual services less than 1%, other charges and services 26%, commodities 4%, other operating expense less than 1%, transfers 17%, and reserves at 7%. Our capital improvement fund program is at $18.6 million. Recreation facilities fund less than 1%, as well as the beautification fund. Impact fee fund 7%, sales surtax fund 28%, general capital improvement fund 27%, utility fund 1%, and our reserves at 37%. And that, Mr. Mayor, is a summary of our proposed budget.
Thank you. Any questions, members of the council? We opened, I know we had on the agenda about public comment. I have not received any public comment cards, but could I open that now? All right. So before we go to department heads, I do not have any comment cards submitted for the for budget review. But if anyone here would like to comment, I will ask you to come now. All right, seeing none, then I'm going to close public comment and we'll continue with the presentation. Thank you. Who's next?
Village Council and Village Manager and Human Resources and Planning and Zoning is next. But while I'm up here, I would, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to do finance and non-departmental.
Sure, we'll save you a trip.
Okay.
What page? Just tell us what page.
Thank you. I'm going to tell you the page. First, I would like you to all turn to page 14 as a reference for all the departments. If you look on page 14, you'll note all the operating expenses for every department, and we put a column there for percent change. So you can see in the right column to reference as we're going along, if you will, the percent change increase for each department. Now, My department is on page 44. And as you can see on that other page, I have a 2.99% increase in the total budget. That is in line with the personal services changes that exist. Other than that, I have nothing new.
Okay.
Okay? My next section is non-departmental on page 75. And this is a 0.69%, that's less than 1% increase. And the cause of the small increase is in the current year, some of the line items were over budgeted. But there were no real major increases in any of those items, so we had a very less than 1% increase in the department, in the division.
Okay. Looks like you're gonna come in, we're gonna come in under what we were projected, once again, in this category. So that's, okay, good.
And my last item, which is only in here because in order to get the budget award, you have to show 4 years of expenditures. On page 76, debt service and transfers, you'll note that we're showing only 16 actual. We have no debt, and we have no transfers.
This is probably my favorite page in the whole
Yep.
book.
Next year it will be gone.
Okay. Oh, the page goes away. You can't just show all zeros?
4 years.
Okay.
And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thanks, Stan. Thank you very much.
But then you don't get a chance to say that again unless he brings it.
Unless, yeah, unless he has the page.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So you'll be followed by,
The village council budget,
okay,
page 30. Village council budget at a 2.6% increase, and the only change in that department that made that was in the personal services. And we went up due to life insurance, retirement contribution and that, but it only went up the 2.76%. All the other line items, there's nothing new in there. No new programs, continuation of all the existing programs, and no discontinuation of existing programs.
is this the budget item, line item 5410, where we pay for things like dues or fees to be part of a chamber?
This is the budget where we pay for chamber memberships. We have and that line item would be 5410.
5410,
We have
okay.
Western Communities membership at $350 a year, Florida League of Cities at $4,300, Palm Beach Intergovernmental Membership, iPark, $900, Palm Beach League of Cities, $10,000, Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce, $580, Business Development Board, $2,000, Western Business Alliance, $175, and subscription to Quality City magazines, $130.
You said Palm Beach League is 10,000?
Yes, $10,127.
Okay. Well, at this point, I want to bring a question then to council, because this came up at a presentation we got from the president of the
Puerto Rican Hispanic.
Puerto Rican Chamber, American, I don't know what the name is.
Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber.
Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber, right. At that meeting, if you'll recall, it was presented to us to consider joining that chamber at the fee, I understand, was $1,000. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes, that was the request to be a trustee for
Yeah, now, I just want to share a thought on this. All other chambers that we're members of, we didn't some time ago, as a policy, we decided we didn't want to be trustees. We don't want to be involved as a government entity in the voting and, running the chamber.
That decision was made. I don't know who made that decision.
Some
I
time
don't-
ago, though.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that in mind, it would be contrary to that policy to accept or engage in a membership as a trustee of this particular chamber. What we have found is chambers over the years have modified their membership structures to accommodate the inclusion of local government. And with local government not wanting to be, we don't want as a local government, we don't want to be part of this making decisions about what the chamber does. We don't want to be a voting member on the board, but we want to support the chamber and support the businesses in our community by participating and being a member. So I don't know what other thoughts any of you had. I just wanted to put that out there for you for further discussion or comments.
Okay. I could comment.
Yeah.
Actually, I was curious about that also, from the point of view of was there an alternative to the trustee membership? And if I remember correctly, the answer was yes, and I don't remember the exact amount, but it was on the order of $175. So I think
Want to come up and
Mr. Juan
share that with us?
Pagan is here.
Mr. Pagan?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Actually, the number of memberships, you can go from week. I'm sorry, Juan Pagan, President of Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, or the Florida Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce for the whole state. One of the things, different levels of membership, and the start as the basic one is $155 a year. That's what it is. You know, the difference between being a trustee is the number of privileges, quote unquote, that particular member will have, because that means that you get posted on every email that the logo of the city gets posted on every email that we send out, mass mailing, 4,000 to 7,000 emails a month. In addition to that, you get your logo is on the web page. Therefore, anything that you want to be publicized about the city, automatically people who see our web page will be connected to you. We have over something like 65,000 hits on our web page every year. So in terms of voting decision, there's no such thing, because we have a board of directors within the organization. What this gives you the opportunity to be publicized over and over, and you can also post your job openings, you can post your regulations, you can post whatever you want to be known in another channel through our webpage.
As a trustee, aren't you required to attend meetings and
No, you don't. It's totally voluntary. It's we have members like FPL. We have a trustee, FPL, Home Depot here. Other members like Patagonia Restaurant here in Royal Palm. So they are not. The trustee doesn't involve that you are managing anything within the chamber. That means the opportunities you have to get your business to be known across the whole community.
what does this other membership?
The other is called the other ones are called like gold, silver, and again, it's the amount of benefits that you get for publicize your entity,
Okay, I don't know how that matches up to what our membership standing is in the other chambers. Do you know, Ray? Is there a way of matching up what he just said? What would be the equivalent in terms of what our membership level is in other chambers?
I believe we do have basic membership in the other, well, the Central Palm Beach Chamber and the Western Business Alliance. We have the basic membership.
Okay. So perhaps we ought to consider that approach and
Basic.
just a basic approach to have a relationship.
The relationship is not going to change. We're going to be willing. Our objective is to work with the community to make sure that we all can help and bring together. That's the reason all our position with the chamber are non-salary positions. So my 6-figure budget of my salary starts with a 0, and you are 5 more zeros.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jan?
Did you make your comments, Jeff?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. This chamber is countywide, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So if we're going to consider this chamber, I would also like us to consider the other countywide chambers that we're not a member of yet. So I would consider the Black Chamber, and I would consider the Hispanic Chamber, and I would also like to consider the Women's Chamber. And if we're going to make a decision, let's make it across the board so that we're not picking favorites.
Anyone else like to comment? Richard?
And to open up an even bigger can of worms than Jan did, I would suggest, as I had mentioned previously earlier this year, I attended an event for Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County, which does provide legal services to the indigent in our community, not only in rural Palm Beach, but countywide. And if we're going to start joining organizations or funding them, I just checked their website, and apparently the city of Boca Raton does do something funding-wise with them. That would be my choice. So
What was it again?
the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach
Oh,
County.
okay, the legal, I get it now, okay.
Legally, yeah. See the connection.
They do.
Right. Well, that's a good point.
All right, so I'm counting 5, a list of 5. You mentioned 3, he's got 1.
Well, there are actually
3,
18
4.
chambers in Palm Beach County.
Really?
So if you
They're
want-
not all countywide.
Correct. I mean, yeah, right. They are regional.
Yeah, she said countywide. This legal aid one is countywide, Richard?
It's countywide, but it's not a chamber. It's an own incorporated organization.
All right, we need to watch, okay, well, I'll get back to that. Go ahead. Selena?
Oh, no, I was just commenting that it was, I mean, I do like if you're going to do one, and not only that, though, there is the Hispanic Chamber is the other one that is countywide. If you mentioned that, too, I wasn't sure. Yeah. So there are several that are,
Is that the Hispanic Chamber, the Black?
yeah.
Black Chamber,
Business
Women's Chamber.
Women's Chamber.
There's also the Puerto Rican Chamber.
Well, that's,
No, he's the Hispanic Puerto Rican Chamber, the Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber. There's the Puerto Rican Chamber, there's the Hispanic Chamber, and then there's the Puerto Rican Hispanic
well,
Chamber.
look, okay, let me put something else in context. None of those other chambers, to my knowledge, have asked us to join. Is that true? This one has asked us to join, but I'm just asking. But we could adopt a policy that says we're open to general membership. What's the term? Basic membership? Is it
Basic membership.
basic membership? But it would be if such a request were made by those chambers, then we could say from a
Consider it.
policy standpoint, yeah, that's something we would definitely be open to.
So I
doing.
haven't looked at the membership amounts, so it's also a budgeting issue, which is why we're talking about it.
Which is why we're talking about it now. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the basic membership for this chamber? $155? Okay, so it sounds like the suggestion that was made is if we join this particular chamber at the basic rate, that's what we'd have to budget for.
Right.
Good.
In addition to Legal Aid Society.
We're gonna have to look at the league, we need to have, I'd like to get input from our council on that, because we're talking about chambers right now. And if we go off of that list, there's a whole other list of organizations that will be lining up too. So on that one, I just want to put that on a parking lot status for now.
Okay.
That we could talk about it, but I'd like to get some background research done by Jennifer, because I want to know, I don't want to open this up to everybody, all these organizations lining up and saying, well, you join these guys, what about these guys? I'm not saying it's going to be there, but I just want to have a chance to filter that. But I like to keep it to chambers, at least that's a discrete category, okay? And we are members right now of a few chambers,
Right.
as we saw, all right, which is, okay, that's fine. So with that said, where does that leave us?
I mean, I'll be happy to provide you all with some background information about the Legal Aid Society. As Councilman Valentis indicated, they do a ton of pro bono work in Palm Beach County. They are a county-wide organization, so they would probably help a lot of your residents. You may just not know about it. So I'll provide you some background information and figure out what the membership rates are. I'm not sure about that.
That'd be great.
And I don't know if there aren't membership rates, my suggestion would be $155 donation as opposed to membership. But that's my
We got the
thought.
same problem, though. We got the same problem if we donate to one
problem, exactly.
if we donate to one nonprofit, the other 100 are going to line up and say, well, what about us? And that's, we fight this, we have this question every 2 years. We go through this, but anyway. All right, so that's handles that. So what do we do in terms of the question before us now? I think there's 2 things that we're looking at. If we decide to join and pay the basic fee, $155, to join this chamber, do we also say that we're open to these other countywide chambers that have been discussed, but we don't act on them we could say policy-wide, we're open to them. But if we don't have an invitation to join, we wait till we get an invitation to join. That make sense?
Well, as long as it's included in the budget. Right. As long as it's
But we don't know,
included in the
but we don't know
budget.
what, the problem is we don't know what the,
Well, the basic membership for most chambers under that is $350, but they do it based on your size of your organization.
so you're suggesting we just forecast in the budget $350 each?
Per, and then some you're gonna go over, some you're gonna go under, and then that'll even out.
Can we do that, Ray?
But times how many?
Well, we got 4. We got 3.
That we just identified, but it could be 4 others we're not
We're
even
going with what we
thinking of.
identified. The list, we're talking about countywide chambers.
Correct. So I'm saying is off the top of our head, we just pulled out 4 or 5. What if there's another 4 or 5 we're not aware of?
Oh, you're close.
I guess that's why we got the second meeting.
Okay.
I'll take it anyway.
So maybe we could get some homework done in between and see what we're dealing with, get a scope, get an understanding of that.
So what are we saying? Are we putting money in the budget? And are we saying yes, we're going to join this particular chamber request at the rate of 155?
I thought I heard we were going to do some research.
Yeah, trying to understand what the scope is, because it does seem like we're opening up the issue.
Oh, you
I
mean before we say,
Before we make
any-
a
yes to
commitment
any?
one way or the other, yeah.
okay, who's going to do the research?
Well, we were doing research on legal aid services. We weren't,
what are we
we
researching?
weren't doing research on, I do know there's more nonprofits in Palm Beach County per capita than anywhere else. That I have heard many times.
But right now, I'm talking about chambers of commerce organizations, and we have these different
But we have-
slices of them that are
I guess
countywide.
We're limited to, there's 18 of them. I'm relying on what Selena said. There's 18 chambers out there, of which not all 18 are
Countywide.
countywide. So I would assume maybe half, let's say half maybe are.
Why
So
don't we
that's
find
about what
out-
we're dealing
All right, let's
with.
find out what we're dealing with here. And we can come back to this at a later date? And we're going to have to make any definitive decisions tonight? I think the one decision we've made is we're not, if we join this chamber, we're not going to be a trustee member, we're going to be a basic member. Is that inaccurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But we do need to understand the scope of what we're engaging with here.
So we need to get the, truly, who are the county level chambers and what's the scope of their basic memberships, and we'll revisit this, okay? All right,
Good.
good. All right, I'm sorry I interrupted the flow here. Who's presenting?
Right. Okay. The village managers, is that all in the council's budget? I'm sorry. Was there anything else on the council budget?
That was, yeah.
Okay. On the village manager's budget, I know it looks like it's a significant change with a 19% increase.
Expenses went up.
I will say that does not add to the salaries. What that does is it is our $300,000 contribution to the MPO becoming an independent MPO. So this is the first year you'll see it. The council, we'll later on in the agenda, if this is approved in here, with the MPO looking to become an independent MPO, they need cash to carry them through the year because their reimbursement from the federal government is at the end of the year, and they're looking at anywhere from 4 to 6 cities fronting them $300,000 to carry their operating costs for 1 year. We have it set up as a 5-year agreement for them to have this money with renewals after that. Once they get the money, they'll use it for their operating this year, and then they'll get their cash from the federal government, and then use the money again, and so it's continuously being used. There won't ever need to be another 300, but as long as they need the money or operate as an independent, they'll need this front-loaded cash. So it is in my budget, and that is what increases the budget to the 19%. Other than that, everything else in the budget is status quo, with no significant changes.
And we get paid what for this?
Well, there is, by having them have the money, there is some administration costs that are associated with that, and those administration costs are $6,000 a year that the MPO will be paying us for those costs.
Okay, good. Any questions for the village manager? No? Is that, you got more, Ray?
No, I do not have anything else. The next one is Monica with Human Resources.
Good evening, Mayor.
Hi,
Good evening,
you're up.
Council. On page 37 is the breakdown of the human resource budget. From last budget year to this one is a 1.4% change. There are no significant additions or deletions. If anybody has a question.
No questions? Okay. Thank you, HR.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Oh, there you are.
Planning and zoning.
Bradford O'Brien with planning.
Good evening. As the village manager stated, we are getting another half of a person.
What page? What page?
We were sharing someone with engineering, and the workload is just, oh, I'm sorry, 30, starting on page 37. Or starting on page
No, 37 is human
38,
resources.
page
Gotta be something
38.
else.
38, 39.
There we go.
This is a well, or a
Big
greatly
land, that's
needed position. Yeah.
So how,
We get the foot in the arms, and then everything else in this budget is status quo. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
There's one small difference. We did budget along with the appraisals and realtors $25,000 and included an urban forester. Both Bradford's budget and community development's budget, code enforcement. We have this money budgeted to assist us with the implementation of the new landscape code.
okay. This, once again, just want to point out that your, the adopted budget for 2018 and your actual projection is coming in less than what you projected. So once again, that's good news, yes.
Yep.
Feeding you your good news.
Yeah, glad you like it.
Okay. Any questions from council members? None? All right. Thank you, Bradford. Next, we already heard from finance, so now we hear from non-departmental.
And Stan did non-departmental, and that was the 0.69%
Oh, that was done already,
change.
okay.
And that's our utilities, our communication, our insurances, all that, which is good news that stayed status quo.
Next is then legal.
Legal shows a 7.24% increase,
What
but that's
page is that?
historical. That's just, well, page 14 is what I was looking at. The other page really doesn't have any detail. That's page. I'm getting there. I got it.
No, it's not 14.
No, it's. Oh. Departmental, where's legal?
Looks like 45.
45? Okay, thank you. Good job. Yeah, good job. And the increases, the increases there are twofold. One, the development activity, which is reimbursed by developers, and also the significant number of ordinances that come as a result of our strategic planning
Right.
process. So that's those increases.
Well, once again, though, the projected actual is coming in less than what was budgeted.
We try to bill as much back
No,
to the development community as we can. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. All right, next is police.
Well, the police, and in the police, we had no changes in position. We do have a 3% increase that the sheriff asked for. When you look on the sheet, though, there is one position change, and that's an IS position, but it's a position that was funded at Gun Club Road. Because it's not funded in our spreadsheet anymore, it doesn't mean it's not being done. Obviously, they'll still be doing IS, and they will get all the support of IS. That will not change one bit. It just will not show up on our side of the spreadsheet. So that's the only change. And you don't see that in the budget, but you will see that in the agreement that we bring to you for after we approve the budget workshop in our, actually, it's a consent item on our
It's on the consent
agenda item.
Okay.
And the only difference there is it's a 3% cost of living increase that the sheriff has applied to all the law enforcement service agreements.
And that's per the contract.
It is consistent with the contract, yes.
Does Captain Naox want to make any comments? No?
If you want him, if you want him to make any,
If he wanted to, I wanted to give him an opportunity. If he doesn't, that's fine.
he's fine. He says he's fine.
You're good? Okay.
Next
Okay.
one would be community development.
Okay.
Unless you want to talk about debt service being zero again.
Well, I'd like to talk about it, but I don't want to bore anyone. That could get boring, right? But let's go community development.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just briefly, we're over on page 49. You'll see there's an increase of 3.81 for our budget. Just want to point out 2018, our 1.33 budget, 1.33 million budget. We did usher in $18.2 million of new construction in the village. And with that, our goals for this year are in our strategic plan are primarily to increase our electronic permitting. We feel like that's going to really streamline our processes with our development customers as well as our residential customers, and also provide us some tools and some metrics to kind of measure our performance and our service delivery. So with that, we present our budget for 2019. You have any questions? Or?
No, but your projected actual is also coming in less than what you projected, so that's good.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I like that trend.
That's going the right way.
Yeah, no, we actually go through that every year. We have to be very conservative in our budget projections, so it's good that we come in under than what we actually projected. So.
And it's, as you pointed out, we have been conservative with a lot of the single-family units that are coming online this year. We'll take kind of a wait-and-see approach, and maybe we'll overachieve.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
questions from members and council? No? Thank you, Rob.
Engineering would be next, Chris Marsh.
As soon as they said engineering, see what happens?
Let's try to wake everybody up. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Engineering had a nominal increase. We did gain a half a person. We got the other half
Did you
person.
get the other half?
Yes, we did. The
Okay.
better half.
I'm not even going there.
Wasn't going to even ask which half.
And that person's really going to help us with the if you look at the capital values that we're going to be doing next year, that number's up significantly, so they're going to help with that. We do have the CRS program, that's active, so we're getting a significant number of calls concerning that, and we have to do determinations, so that position will definitely help with that, and the quality of our project management will be impacted by that person. If you have any questions?
Any questions from members on council? And you two are coming in at projected actual versus what was budgeted under. So, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Public Works. I think you're going to be up later on too. But
I look forward to it.
then we have
Mr.
people here
Mayor.
who want to see you.
Okay, that's fine. The Public Works budget, the breakdown for that starts on page 64. The overall increase in the budget is a little over about 4.1%. The primary driver of that increase is personal services. There were a couple areas to look at that also did that. We increased our 4610, our R&M for buildings. We increased that from 76,000 up to 85.5, and that's primarily driven by AC units. We do have a capital program to do the replacement of those that Chris will probably talk about later. But we still have some that fail and repairs have to be made to it, and so that cost is driven by that. And then the remainder of that is in maintenance contracts, and the largest increase in that was for the grounds maintenance that we contract out on State Road 7 and State Road 80. And aside from that, it's a status quo budget.
Maintenance, okay. What line item would cover our contract arrangements for canal maintenance?
That's in the stormwater utility.
Which one?
It's in the stormwater utility.
Okay.
Oh, that's in the stormwater utility budget? Is
Yes,
that
sir,
in
and it's
there?
coming, as soon as we get the questions on this one over, I'll
Okay.
start on that one.
Okay.
I just had a quick question regarding, so is it the difference then, because if we don't have the Harvin Center anymore, but the increase in the size of the cultural center, is that offsetting the two?
No, the major issue here that's driving the cost and the increase in R&M buildings is the actual failure rate of AC units.
Right.
If we have a condensing unit that goes out, it could be $5,000-$6,000. We've got one that's failing now that the quota that's in a future year to be replaced, but it's failing now, and it's $45,000. So we push the number up to offset those costs. What typically happens is we start the year off, something crashes, we have to do it, and then we start behind the eight ball every time.
Thanks.
Any other questions, members of council? Okay,
Okay?
thank you, sir.
The stormwater utility is under its own tab, and the page for the expenditures is on 84.
80?
84.
80. Got it.
The budget you see before you is about a 3.7% increase from the previous one. The primary driver of that being personal services, and the remainder of it is to the maintenance contracts, which is the aquatic vegetation control contract.
What line is that?
4650.
Got it, okay. Well, since you're at that line, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. This contract, if you recall, and I'm sure we all do, we terminated our last contractor last summer of 2017. We put an RFP out, and of course, in the interim, as we were putting the RFP out and going through the RFP process, we had what normally happens during the summer months is a lot of debris. So we had to get a contractor in, and we took out 400 and something cubic yards of material out at a cost of just a little under $60,000. When we took that RFP in, the costs, there were two bids. The cost to do debris removal from the one contractor was just a little under $1 million. From the contractor we awarded to, it was $288,000 just to do debris removal. If you recall what we, did I not bring those with me? What we awarded was about $197,000. 64 was to the work in the M1 canal, which is a split with Indian Trails. So the village's portion of that is about between $160,000 and $165,000. So half again as much on top of that, 1.5 times that just to do debris removal, and we brought that to you with a recommendation that we not do it, and so that's how that was awarded. And at the time we did that award, we had a discussion on debris because we all I think recognized that we're going to have this issue with debris, and we had decided, or we had discussed at that time, that when the issue came up, we would have to get a contractor in and to do that, which is what we did here this last month. The cost to do that work is substantial. It's to do the larger harvester with a crew, and that is about $250 an hour. Now, the issue that you run into with that is always timing. We started bringing them down in May to take a look at the canals and to get some pricing to go ahead and start the work, but there wasn't enough work in the canal for them to come down to do.
Really?
So by the time we got them in June, there was more than enough work for them to do.
Okay.
But that is, so it's a timing issue. We have talked to them about doing a contract to have them like on call. But there's so much work in the state to do that. Everyone today has told me they won't do it.
So,
That they will come in and they will price it, and then they will schedule it in and come and do our work.
so some of the issues that we're experiencing now at this point in time, is similar issues being experienced?
Well, it is what, I mean, it is a part of the process to do this. We took out of the canal for this round of taking out debris 280 yards. But I can tell you, there's a challenge, and I'm sure one of the residents lives in that area, will come up and speak later. We cleaned 3 times.
Okay.
And it needs to be cleaned again right now. And that's the area on the west side of Crestwood Boulevard. And that channel, and that channel that leads up to it, that goes along Sparrow Drive, goes by the middle school, was cleaned out, and it needs to be cleaned out again.
So, I mean, what we have right now is the growth was good, like it has been in past months. The flow rates in the month of May were high, even though our contractor was applying herbicide. The stuff is dead, and what you see is what grows from the bottom of the canal, and that is reacting from being chemically treated and then dying and floating and getting on a cow system. Now so Paul did bring the contractor on board, and like you said, we're at $35,000, I think, is what we've spent to date. 30,000 is what we spent to date, and had removed 280 cubic yards. And we know that this July, first part of August, is our worst time for this, and he does have the guy out there, and he has been working on it.
The majority of what's out there right now, and it's not all of it, but the majority is small stuff that's on the edges. You'll notice in the morning time it's down up underneath, and as soon as the sun comes out, it starts heating back up. But what's occurring there is algae is on it. So we've got to treat it, the algae on it, and that work will be started, should be tomorrow or at the latest Monday. And the entire canal system will be being treated for algae by the contractor. So we're hoping that will cause a good portion of it that's unsightly to drop out. And if that doesn't work, then I'll have to talk with Ray about bringing the contractor back in.
Okay. Good.
So I saw pretty much what you were just describing over on Crestwood Boulevard to the west, before you get to Our Lady Church, headed south, and it. I saw the contractor out there using a harvester, and a couple of days after that, while it was cleaned shortly after that, you could see some of the debris coming back into the area. So, with the frequency and the recurrence kind of a thing, have you taken a look at the possibility, instead of contracting this out, pulling it in-house and actually getting equipment to be able to do that?
Yeah, I didn't know if this was an appropriate time to address that or not, but since you brought it up, I will. Well, we have discussed it to great length.
It's about spending money, right? So that's what we're talking
Thinking about.
Well, but it wasn't proposed in this budget.
I understand.
Right? So I had actually intended, which is fine, I had intended to talk about it during the council meeting, but we do intend to, during the strategic planning process next year, come to you with a proposal to do just that, to take this part of it in-house, or some other part. we'll evaluate it to where it makes sense financially, so there's the minimal amount of impact to the user fee. But no one can respond to it as quickly as we can.
And
Exactly,
it's,
and
a, it's a very, it would be it's unique equipment that we would need for our canal system. The system that makes it most efficient to be able to use it with a piece of equipment like that is one that could get underneath our bridge and wouldn't need a crane to load it in at all the different locations. This equipment is custom made anyway, so Paul has been having those conversations with the people that are in that business that can make this equipment, and we do plan on putting something together for you for the next strategic plan process.
Okay, I think that's a really good idea. This is a very unusual situation with the frequency and the difficulty, and as you were pointing out, the timing of it and the labor intensive from a cost point. I mean, it's all the kind of stuff that maybe does warrant that kind of a consideration.
We know when it happens. It's a matter of getting a contractor down here when it happens, and the cost was just cost prohibitive to award it during that RFP process. So we're trying to manage it in this manner right now, and some folks are happy and probably a lot of them are not, but the vast majority it is the little stuff on the side, and what's holding that up is algae, and we're going to get that treated and hopefully that'll drop out.
What's not different is the growth in the canal. What is different is how we've been dealing with it. And when we had the contractor for many years, when we had contractors doing the spraying and being responsible for removing the debris, there was, what were they doing less of? Were they spraying not enough? Could they spray just the right amount where there wasn't a lot of debris? And we always thought with those two being together with the same contractor, there'd be the right balance. They always got behind on the debris. It always became a lot more expensive than the contract they have. We've more than tripled the contract over the last several years. And where we're at today is, our system grows this stuff, and we can't keep it from growing it. And it wouldn't matter who is putting the the spray in these canals. It has this ability to do it with the flows that we get through the system and keeping chemicals in there and keeping this, it grows it. So we're at the point now where we feel we have a good contractor. We feel he's doing a good job with the chemicals. We keep track of all the chemicals he puts in, how much he puts in, the cost of the chemicals that's going in. So we know now it is not something that can be handled differently with chemicals. So that's why at this point we feel comfortable in saying, okay, if we want to not have this debris problem as bad as it is, or it's going to stay as bad as it is. It's just being able to rake it up when it's there. Okay. And right now we're using the contractor. We're not paying them $1 million. We're paying them, I don't know what our unit cost is, the $250 an hour. Is that what we're paying him?
For the harvesting, for a harvester operator, and then the conveyor and a truck to haul it.
And he's a pretty high quantity contractor. So having a lot out there for him is a good thing and keeps the cost to not $1 million. But we do think, knowing that we have a good aquatic vegetation spray contractor, that exploring that we were kind of kidding around the office saying the Bob Carter solution of buying the equipment, putting the labor on it, and just doing it. Maybe is the best way to keep the level of service to the maximum.
I actually talked to Mr. Carter a couple weeks ago about that too. So.
That looks like something worthwhile considering. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just real quick, and I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but what happens if we just leave it alone? Because we're spraying it and it's rising to the top, and then that's what needs to be removed. Mm-hmm. What if we didn't spray it? Would it eventually?
This room would be completely filled, packed to the gills, and everyone would want to kill
Well,
it.
and the result would be that you could not use the canals for recreation. Right. You could not.
It would be bad news.
It would be impassable.
It doesn't flow out on its own.
No,
eventually, is what you're saying, right?
No, it would be stuck to the bottom, and it would grow, and it would surface to the top, and you would see vegetation on the top.
I think the question, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think the question that you asked, Ms. Smith, was if the floating debris, if we didn't do anything with that, if we didn't scoop it out, we didn't pick it up, we just left it there, it would just accumulate, and it would accumulate, and because it doesn't flow out of the system.
Right.
So it would be impassable.
No, and that was this, because I know when we spray, it's the vegetation rises to the top, and that's what needs to be removed. So my question is what if we didn't spray?
Oh, if you didn't spray?
Right, if it
Oh,
would then,
it
but
would-
it's
it
not
would top
flushing
out
out,
and you
it is
couldn't-
hanging out.
You couldn't use it to boat
Thanks.
at all. Same thing happens. It's unusable.
And so that's the one thing that I was thinking about was we look at our canals as an asset for a number of reasons, not just drainage, but also recreation. So with any of our assets, whether it be parks or canals, there's a cost associated with maintaining them so that they can be used and that type of thing. So like I said, I look forward to hearing more about the other possibility of actually bringing that in-house. So thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Any other questions on the stormwater budget?
Okay, no, thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Lou with Parks and Rec.
Ooh. Yeah, the problem is, the card came in very late. We had already closed public comment on the budget, but I'll give you a chance to speak last presentation. So we had closed public comment already before you came in.
But we will have an opportunity during the regular meeting to have public comment again on.
Yeah, I'll get you,
agenda
yeah, we'll get you up there. This is just a workshop tonight, yeah. But I'm gonna let you come up when we finish the presentation, before we close the meeting. Lou.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to present to you the budget for Parks and Recreation for the 2019 year. The budget starts on 65 and goes through 73. The total increase on the Parks and Recreation budget is 3.87%. And if you look on page 69, which is the Parks Division budget, there's really no significant changes in parks. On page 71, and I'm going to do both of them at the same time, 71 and 73, which is recreation and then the cultural center. The one thing I want to mention that makes significant difference is all the senior programs that were in the cultural center and the cultural division are now in the recreational division. So you're going to see the budget items, account numbers 34, 95, 96, and 97. And when you go into both of those divisions, you'll see that in the cultural center, it's zeroed out. And in the recreation division, you can see where those numbers were carried through. So there's no changes other than the transfer from one division to the other, because these senior programs, again, will be taking place at the rec center, where the cultural center, once it's completed, will be basically for meetings, weddings, parties, having different business functions. So it's going to be used more of a business convention center more than a cultural center. It's what we're going to be promoting it like.
Well, just in terms of the seniors programs, the Young at Hearts luncheons are moving back to the cultural center, right?
The luncheon will take place at the cultural center.
Okay.
Because again, that's what it's going to be used for.
Okay.
Their meetings, everything will take place at the rec center.
Okay.
The other thing on special events, I know in strategic plan, we had talked about the enhancement of our special events. And the way we're going to approach that is we're going to rely more on our contractor who has the expertise. We're going to bring in better entertainment. And on top of that, we have applied for a $150,000 grant for a program support grant through the Cultural Facilities Department at the state of Florida. And we're very confident that we'll be getting that $150,000. And it's a match, dollar for dollar.
How quickly do you think that'll happen?
Pardon?
How quickly do you think that will happen?
Well, I'm hoping in September we'll have an answer, a preliminary answer.
So it's for
and then
this
the
budget
official.
cycle?
Yes, and it will be retroactive.
Okay.
Okay? And that's not just for, used for special events or entertainment. it's also for our cultural programs, our painting classes, our arts programs, and so on. So it's really going to help us out tremendously. And this is the first time we've applied for this grant. Any questions? Like I say, I think the budget's pretty much status quo.
There are two level service changes that we did in this budget. One in the Parks Department, we did add, while the overall total of the budget is not much, but it is, we did double the amount of holiday decorations. We went from $25,000 to $50,000.
So that means that we're going to put decorations on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard?
More decorations.
More
We had
decorations?
decorations before, but we'll
We'll
have
put
more
more?
than we had before.
Okay, so, okay.
$25,000.
We did
more.
get some feedback, questions about that, so I'm glad we're paying attention to that. Good.
And the other line item that we put in this budget, we had it in the budget this past year. We moved it to Recreation Department, and that is $45,000 for senior transportation. But I will tell you that.
Still working on it.
Huh? 45 is in the budget.
That's in the budget.
So, but I will tell you that the LIFT program has changed, and they went to a minimum of $5,000 a month billing, and we won't make that. And there is no other LIFT program that will serve us well as it relates to trying to give seniors a discounted ride with LIFT. I just had a call with them today at 1:45, and that was really my last of probably a half a dozen calls that we're just not going to be able to work something out with them. I'm still trying to chase down the Uber program that they're doing with FAU. I did send through emails through their internet site. I have not gotten any responses that I need or somebody to talk to set something like this. The only thing I get is, here's our business websites. Go through there, and that's none of those services would work for what we're trying to do. They're either Carnegie services where you set a ride up for somebody, like a doctor's office, and you pay 100%, or you set up an event, and the event is a weekend or up to a week, and you pay for people's rides to and from locations for that event. I did send emails. I did get the COO email from LinkedIn, and I sent him an email last week, and hopefully I put it out there that we want to expose our seniors to discounted rides of either 50% or $5 off per ride, and expose them to your business. And how do I do that? I have 8,000 seniors, and we're willing to do this. So
what we may have to do is a pre-registration period to get a certain number, a threshold of seniors signed up, but we're still going to have to try to figure it out. Okay, Jeff.
So if there's a requirement for $5,000 in the LIFT program right now per month, would an increase in the amount of money allocated to this line help deal with that? I mean, if we went to 60,000, just.
No, because
I wish it was that simple.
you're not going to get that billing. I mean, you're not.
They
gonna
want
get
the
that
money
billing
whether it's
billing
used or not.
itself,
They want you to send them the money whether it was used
whether
or
you
not.
choose it or not.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's what I'm saying.
I see where you're.
Pre-registration might
Okay.
position us
All right.
better. Yeah. So okay.
And the closest thing we come to is, but that wouldn't even work, is almost buying buying rides from them, and you get a code, and then people can get a discount off, but it's the same code for a period of time, so it can be used by anybody.
Okay.
And that's the closest I can get to getting a dollar amount off per ride.
Well, think
So,
about pre-registration.
still working with it. Hopefully
Gotta work with it.
the operating officer with Uber sees this as a great opportunity to get into assisting cities with moving seniors around, and
They say that's what
looks
they-
at it as an opportunity. And
Yeah. They said that's what they want to do. So
right.
interesting. Okay.
But that is in. I moved that into this
Okay.
from my budget. So
Okay.
sorry, no.
Any other questions for Lou? No? Thanks, Lou. Okay, that concludes item 3, the department reports. Before we go to item 4, capital budget, I did get a late comment card, so I'm going to ask Dave Swift, come on up. He wanted to comment on the public works budget.
David Swift, 240 Ponce de Leon Street, Royal Palm Beach. This is a budget hearing, and I have a
The
specific...
workshop. Go ahead.
Workshop, okay. And I expected to hear numbers, and I heard a lot of excuses. I didn't hear numbers. I've lived in the village for 40 years. I have never seen an aquatic weed problem as large as that we have had this year. What I would like to know in this year's budgets is simply how much are we spending on aquatic weed spraying, harvesting, and then I guess moving the material that you collect from the canals. How much are you spending on it this year? What do you plan to spend on it next year in those categories? That's what I was looking for, the number.
All right, I thought we just covered the number.
Yeah, Paul said the number.
Yeah.
What was it?
Right.
I think he said $197,000 is our contract for our aquatic vegetation.
He's coming back.
And we spent $35,000 that's not in the budget to date on debris removal. And the 190, well, whatever 165, he said it, $165,000 we have, that's right, it was 64,000 on the M1. We pay half.
The treatment is 197,000. And $197,700 is for the combined, for the village system and the M1 canal. The M1 canal, which is a 50-50 cost share, is $64,200. So the village's part of that is 165, a little over 165,000.
That's what you spent this year. Or is that what you're spending next year?
That is the budget for next year.
The budget for next year. All right.
And that's a few percent more than what it is this year. It's the same contractor. It's a renewal of this contract that we're taking into next year, and we're going.
So that's what percent increase as a whole? Is it more than?
There is no increase in that. We're continuing the existing contract. The only difference would be how much we spent on debris removal. This year we've spent $35,000 unbudgeted. We'll probably spend a little bit more.
30.
And next year we'll spend it on an as-needed basis.
My last question. Why don't you think we're going to need more money?
This, that was the discussion we had that I had actually expected to have in the next round, but to quantify that, because there were so many things that went wrong with the last contract, we ended up spending almost $60,000 to remove the debris out in that last month and a half. We put an RFP out. We took those in, we evaluated them, and we made the decision not to award the debris removal portion of it. So that was not included in this current year's budget. And without knowing what how to quantify it, I did not put a dollar in there. But the decision at the time we awarded the RFP that was made is that we would come back to council if it was a dollar amount that had to come back to council for, and we would get approval to do that. I got approval from the village manager to spend the $30,000. If I need to spend more than that, I'll go back to him and we will do that.
Okay.
And our intention for the following year is to put a proposal together to present to council during the strategic planning process to take that part of it, at least that part of it, and do it in-house.
Okay, I got about 20 other questions, but I'll stop.
Thanks. Okay.
You can come see me, David.
You know who to talk to one-on-one if you need to. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to go back and finish the budget review. Now we're going to have the capital budget presented. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Before I get into the presentation, I'd like to show off one of our new tools that GIS created. If you look at the screen, I'm on our homepage. In order to get to this web map, you would go to Departments, scroll down to Engineering, and then click on Capital Improvement Projects Interactive Map. And this is real time. This is not a PDF document or PowerPoint. This is the actual map. When you come to the screen, you're going to see a whole bunch of red numbers on the screen. Those represent the capital projects throughout the city. On this first slide, if you look in the upper right-hand side, it's coded by color, the projects, and once I zoom in, it'll make a little better sense to you for that. And the designation is either it's in the 5-year budget, it's under design, under construction, or completed for that year. And this will be continuously updated for projects, and then at this presentation, the new projects will get put in, the completed projects would be removed. So as you zoom in, you could see that Ponce de Leon Street is under construction. You could click on the street. That's going to give you information on that construction. We will add project schedules to this. We will include photos as that goes, the project proceeds, and we will put pertinent information as those projects either get close or under construction, and different elements of that work will take place. So if you see some construction go up in your neighborhood, the easiest way is just go to this map, zoom to where you see that construction, and you could just click on it. The other element of this, if you're curious to know what was going on in the village, is on this left-hand side. If you click on this arrow right here, it's going to scroll you through the improvements, and you can see it's a dynamic map. As you go to each of these projects, it's going to zoom to the aerial location of that project. You could still click on that and get some more information here, and this will dynamically walk you through our CIP. So I'm doing this real time. Anybody could do this at home and see exactly what's going on when you see that equipment out there or something under construction.
Cool.
And as you can see, there's 45 projects showcased. I did not put equipment in there because it wouldn't be relevant for a map-based thing. But these are map-based projects, typically over $40,000 in value. So, new thing that our GIS department put together. Jeff Sullivan over there did a really good job with that. So
That's excellent. I know you've been working on that for a while. I'm glad to see it's up and running now. Good.
Great.
Excellent.
In fact, you reported on that last year, say it was coming. So, good job there. Okay.
Okay, so now we will walk through the 2019 to 2023 capital improvement plan. The first slide is a summary of the funds with revenues and expenditures for the different funds. And the first fund is Recreation Facilities Funds. That is exactly what it says. It's for the expansion of recreational facilities, purchase recreational land, and purchasing recreational equipment. This is the Royal Palm Beach Commons parking lot expansion. What you're seeing here is the plan is to minimize the amount of pavement that we add to the park. So we're looking at paving drive aisles for the two lots. So you would still have grass parking for portions of it. On the south end of the lot, we'll be adding permanent concrete spaces near the park, the dog park, and additional spots along here for residents to park and make their way into the Great Lawn area. And also up on the east end, there will be some additional paved drive aisles.
Chris, is there extra drainage underneath those then, or will you expand the drainage, or you don't feel that there's a need?
The drainage, as part of the original project, is adequate for this area. We'll add some additional inlets, but the pipe infrastructure is already in for that. So we're not going to have to do a whole lot of big digging to put new drainage culverts in. We'll just add inlets and curb and gutter for that area.
So then to help with the overflow then from when we have those really rainy days and now you're going back out there and that.
Are you talking about the Great Lawn area?
Well, since you brought it up, no, but that's where, I mean, it comes from is that side. But since we're now doing the pavement on this, if we would include it, especially since now you put the pavement over it, so for drainage purposes.
There'll be drainage that will handle the additional impervious area here. So the runoff from that pavement will be collected in curbs and put in inlets to minimize the amount that the pervious areas, the grass areas, are saturated during these events. As it relates to the Great Lawn, you have to understand that in that low area, it is actually low. It is not a whole lot greater than what we maintain our canal elevations. We did add some under drain in that area, which is improving the recovery time. But when you get extreme events like that, if we had the budget of the Masters, we could put a vacuum system in there and pull that water out of there quicker. But
stadiums do it all the time. Thanks.
And this is the summary of the other projects. The ADA kayak launch is actually under construction right now. You can see the crane out there, and the dock is planned to be delivered next week, I believe. They're a little behind schedule, unfortunately. The next fund is the Community Beautification Fund. This is to improve the aesthetics of the village. And there's accent lighting improvements at Veterans Park, which I believe is under contract currently and will be completed pretty close to the end of the fiscal year. The next fund is the Impact Fee Fund, and this is a picture of the Cultural Center expansion, which is under construction, which is scheduled to be complete sometime in October. And this is a summary of the projects in that Impact Fee Fund. These were projects that were previously funded as part of the CIP, so I don't have specific slides for those, but if you have questions on any of these, I'm more than happy to field those. And also, I'd like to note that the Okeechobee Boulevard lighting is on tonight's agenda for awards, so we're pretty close to having that kickoff. The next fund is the sales tax surtax fund. This is for things that will last longer than 5 years. This is a picture of resurfacing because we do have 2 resurfacing projects that will be part of this fund. This slide is for Commons Park access, and what this does, and it was identified in our strategic plan, is this targets areas for us to improve short distance access to the park, quarter-mile walking distance access to the park, to the neighboring communities, and to our FBL pathway corridor. And by creating these additional connections, it's going to reduce the number of vehicle trips and hopefully encourage people to use an alternate mode of transportation to get to the park on a daily basis. If it's as convenient to walk or bike to the park as it is to drive, then I think people are going to start making that choice to walk or bike, which is better for the environment and obviously will help us with our special events and our parking, because that parking is limited. The next project is the creation of dry detention ponds along the FPL adjacent to La Mancha. The slides where north is to the right because it's a long corridor. But essentially what we'd be doing is digging ponds that during this time of the year would hold water. During the dry season, they would be dry. So they would detain water for a certain period of time, allow it to infiltrate into the ground. It will increase storage within our basin, and it'll also help to protect La Mancha Avenue because it will pull some of that water away from the roadway. It'll intercept it prior to getting into the roadway base on that northern section. The next slide is for the southern Royal Palm Beach Gateway, and this would be a project to enhance the look of that area, make some improvements at that intersection to make it match a little closer with the Commons Park architecture that we've used out there. This is a project for both Crestwood Middle School and Cypress Trails Elementary School. If you go out there today, there's a lot of people that park basically in that area between the roadway and the sidewalk, and it really doesn't have grass during that time of year. What this project would do would put curb and gutter up, add on-street parking in some of these areas, and also expand the sidewalk in this section, and open up the potential, if we were to create an access from Point Siena as part of that Commons strategic access, that this would allow a connection for the neighborhoods from the east and west to get in there. This is the Camellia tennis lighting replacement project. This will just put lights in there that meet current standards, use less energy. The next two slides are going to be for the Commons Park lighting. There's three styles of lighting that we have proposed here. For the pathways going to Heron Parkway and to Grouse Lane, there would be lighting that would be acceptable to ride a bicycle on. Probably a foot to a foot and a half foot candles, so you could safely walk in and out of the park if you were enjoying an event after hours. There are lights that stay on until 9 p.m. in the park, so if you're encouraging people to use alternate modes of transportation, this gets them home safely. If they bring their kids to the park and they stay till 8:30 or 9 o'clock, then they could get home safely with a safe lighted pathway. On the northern perimeter and the southern perimeter, what we're proposing is low-level lighting, more for security and safety, so people couldn't sneak up on you if you were on that pathway or hide out in those areas. They will be electric. The third would be what we have in the Great Lawn now. We would expand that to light up the parking lots and portions of the dog park with these lights. And the red highlighted area is kind of the areas that we would target. I did meet with Musco. They have gotten very good with creating these types of light systems that don't create any glare for the neighboring surrounding neighbors, so we'll be able to put those lights up with little impact to the surrounding residential homes. This next project is an all-access playground. We haven't determined a location for this. I think what we'd like to do is bring on a consultant to tell us what the most appropriate location. I mean, clearly Commons being a community park in the center of our city is our first thought, but before we made a determination on where this park would go, we felt it would be better to bring in a consultant that specializes in these types of facilities and helps us build this concept, and it would be
So
88.
the consultant's going to help us find what we think is the best location?
Well, this park would serve special needs children
Right.
and ADA, so they would give us a target location. We would obviously ultimately pick the location, but we don't want to, until we bring in an expert, we don't want to make that decision. So. The next slide is for the expansion of the recreation center. This would add 4 additional rooms, a kitchen, and then a bathroom. The expansion is, I believe it was 6,500 square feet, no, 5,500 square foot. And this would also include the expansion of parking to support that additional square foot, probably an additional 50 spaces.
that redoing the current bathrooms?
This would be adding bathrooms, and it would be the single bathroom, so you could accommodate,
Family bathroom.
yeah, the family bathroom, correct. I'll talk to Lou about that. The next slide is for art in public places, and Lou will be working to develop this concept.
Everybody's looking at Jan.
Makes me so happy. Makes me so happy.
With maybe the assistance of Jan.
Okay.
The next slide is to change out the windows to impact-resistant windows, and then increase the elevation of the CBS block. And you can see on the right-hand side of the windows that would be replaced.
Okay.
This would be to increase the size of some existing pipes. They were identified as weak points in our drainage study, so this would help to improve drainage. And the next one is the proposed resurfacing for next year, 2019, which is Crestwood Boulevard, north of Okeechobee, Sparrow Drive, Houston Court, and Wildcat Way.
And this is based on the priority you had set up a few years ago?
That is. And we're also, right now, which we sent the contracts out for, is to have our roads videoed. So when you look at the 22 slide, there could be adjustments in that based on this study that we do, because obviously we wanted to do the roads that need it the most. So
Okay.
this pavement condition study that we're going to have going out, they're going to video every square foot of our roadways. They're actually going to digitize the cracks, which will start our crack fill program. And they'll also create PCI ratings for every segment of roadway. So once we get that new data, if things degraded faster than they should have, then obviously we're going to look to the reasons why that happened and look to make improvements there, and then possibly make some shifts in our resurfacing program before the failures become more expensive to fix.
Try to stay out in front of it, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And this slide is the canal system dredging. We had applied for a grant. We got a $150,000 grant, which is not big enough to do this type of project. In order for them to efficiently come in and do a dredging project, we need to spend $2 million, which we'd like to get $1 million grant. Our plan is to continue to apply for those grants. The $150,000 grant we were actually going to use for the dry detention ponds on the FPL area. That amount of money fits that project quite nicely, whereas if we were to try to use a small amount of money in the dredging project, which we did a pilot project, but unfortunately the mobilization costs are so significant for them to get out there that you really got to spend a decent amount of money to make it cost effective. So we're going to continue to apply for grants, and when we do land a sizable grant, then we would move forward with this project. And this is a summary of all the projects in the 302 fund.
A lot of projects.
Yep. Well, now that he's got a half a person.
Did you have questions on any of the specific projects in the 302 that I did not highlight?
Any questions? No?
No.
All right, we're going to move on to the 303. This is the General Capital Improvements Fund. This is a picture of the interior of the Cultural Center. And as you can see, that they're redoing the ceiling, the walls, the doors, the flooring, and the roof.
Pretty complete. Oh.
Now this project is to clean up our dumpsters, to redo the enclosures for the dumpsters, put the traditional CBS enclosure around them, and So that's at Katz, Veterans Park, Camellia Park, and Bob Marcelo Park. And this is a project to add additional security cameras, primarily at the buildings. We would have cameras facing down from the buildings and projecting out, and that would be at Farron Park, the Rec Center, the Katz Soccer Complex, and Bob Marcelo Park.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
How did you guys select those areas?
I'd like to defer to Lou.
Lou.
Good evening. The way we selected them is those areas, the dumpster enclosures that are there right now.
Security cameras.
Security camera.
What's that?
Security camera.
Oh, security cameras. I thought you were talking about the dumpster.
We're done with the dumpsters.
I'm really okay with the dumpsters.
Basically, those were the areas of concern where we've had vandalism or we've had attempted break-ins at Bob Marcelo on numerous occasions. Farron Park, where that concession building is tucked away behind the school. We have kids back there all the time, and the same thing with Katz soccer fields. You know, it's away from everything, and we've had issues there. And then we'll be doing the rec center too.
Okay, thank you.
Next project would be adding a 35-foot pavilion at Bob Marcelo Park. You can see it down there in the adjacent to the other two pavilions.
This is the play areas out behind the outfield?
The play areas are actually a little bit over, if you could see where my mouse is at, they're a little bit to the east.
The parking lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And this is a summary of the projects, 303. If you have any questions on the ones I did not highlight.
Any questions?
And there's a picture of our harvester out there, Lake Challenger. This is
how
our
recent is
Stormwater
that?
Capital Improvement Fund.
That's recent, right?
That is recent, actually. And the project in here is Camellia Park drainage improvements, which includes fixing the drainage around the existing bathroom, fixing the drainage in that north parking lot, improving this ditch that runs north-south. And that would be it for that. And that concludes my presentation.
Oh, if there's no questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll see if I can get my screen back here. I'm also Here it is. All right, so that concludes the presentation and the workshop discussion on the budget. If there are no further questions from members on council, since that concludes the budget workshop, we're going to adjourn right now. So we're adjourning the budget workshop, and we will now reconvene as a regular meeting, a regular council meeting. So do we need to anyone want to take a 2-minute break? No, we ready to go, right? Everybody's going? Good? Okay. We'll give you the opportunities. All right, welcome to our July 19th regular council meeting. We've concluded the budget workshop. We've also already had the Pledge of Allegiance, and we still have everyone present. So nobody ran off. So we'll start out with reports, and I guess we'll start with you, Jan.
Okay. Well, art in public places makes me really happy, and so Perfect timing. I'm going to give these to Diane to pass out. The National Endowment of the Arts just came out with a new report on community arts, and they've taken a snapshot of 5 vignettes from around the country. One's a mural arts project. One is a canvas project. And you'll see, but I'd love to point out that there's a public art project in here from local Palm Beach County artists, Lucy Keshavars, and she did an ecotourism project up in Martin County, and she took stormwater pipe and recycled sidewalks to create a brook that circulates storm water. You'll see it on, I think it's on page 14, but just a really a nice snapshot of a variety of ideas that folks and artists are using across the country. So just wanted to bring that to you.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Jeff.
Good evening. Attended a couple of neighborhood watch groups. I think the Vice Mayor was there also at the 2 that I wanted to reference really quickly. I just wanted to say, first of all, that these groups they're growing in both the numbers that they have actually involved and the outreach. And I think we've got them in 3 neighborhoods, but they've not only have regular meetings, they also utilize well-subscribed Facebook pages, share a lot of relevant information, give people a heads up. You know, one of the things that Neighborhood Watch activities focus on is if you see something that doesn't look right, say something. And the say something is call the police. And of course, they not only follow that, they also then share the information on Facebook so people have a heads up of things going on in the neighborhoods. It's become really a very effective approach. I want to thank our District 9 for all the great support that Captain Rick Nadux gives to it, and to his staff who show up at every one of these meetings and provides not just support in a reminder of what neighborhood watch groups can do, but also real-time, real information, which I think adds to the credibility and the trust that that the residents have in our local police. So congratulations. They're doing a great job with that. So too are the leaders of these neighborhood watch groups, or captains as they call themselves. Randall Ives and Counterpoint, Mike Gertzberg in the Willows. They're really into this. And one of the byproducts, I think, of this activity is that neighbors get to come together around a collective common interest effort. And they actually get to know each other a lot better as a result of that, which in itself is a security measure. So once again, I think these neighborhood watch groups are really doing a great thing. They've reached out even beyond the security considerations. They've actually had a gentleman by the name of Matt Noble from the emergency program. He's an emergency program coordinator from the division of the county's division of emergency management, and he came and he talked, of course, about a lot of the standard things, preparation for hurricanes, but he also reminded everybody about their iPhone apps that they can use, such as DART, to be able to get real-time information and that type of thing. So they've expanded it from security matters to other kinds of matters that really protect the neighborhoods in a lot of different ways. Actually, from one of the presentations that was made, the Citizen Emergency Response Team idea was raised, and so they're looking into the possibilities of doing it at a neighborhood level and getting with the county and that type of thing. So there's a lot of, like I say, outreach that's developing from these groups. I think it's an excellent thing. So thank you.
You done?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Richard.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening. I attended the Business Development Board Entrepreneur Luncheon in June, and they talked about that 925 jobs have been created in Palm Beach County in 2017. They highlighted 2 moves to the area. So Mueller Industries moved their international headquarters to West Palm, and then Crescent Wealth Advisors also relocated to West Palm. So they have almost 50 jobs just from those two relocations in the area. And then they talked about the FAU Entrepreneur Program. They provide grants, office space, funding needs. So if anybody is in that realm and wants to expand, that FAU has a really good program to help you with that. And then they also talked about that when companies relocate, that their talent pool stretches to a 70-mile radius. So just because a business is located in West Palm doesn't mean that all the residents are going to be, or the employees are going to be in West Palm. So there is quite that reach.
So that suggests that people will travel as far as 70 miles round trip a day to go to work?
They didn't say that. They would say is that
Okay.
they could possibly relocate then as well into that area. So they're willing to drive the 10 miles to West Palm if you live in Royal Palm.
Okay.
Over the last time, I would actually like to thank again, we had our Education Advisory Board board members. So I would like to thank Kevin Abel, Lynn Balsh, Clemmy Christie, Renata Espinoza, and David Kendall for all their service that they did to the Education Advisory Board and for the village over their years. We went out to Wolfapalooza last week. So if anyone wants a Commons Park, it was really neat. They had donuts with paw prints on them, so we enjoyed those. And then we have the 5K coming up on Saturday at Commons Park. And since I've been eating chocolate, it's no problem for any of the Valentis children to beat me across the finish line this year.
Just remember, it's a run, but you can walk.
You can walk. It's a run
to-
walk. And it's a fun event. It's a free event, and it's fun for everybody. And they'll have a bunch of stuff out there. It starts at 8.
Okay.
No report, Mayor.
No report, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes reports. At this time, if anyone has a petition they'd like to present to the council, now would be the time to present it. Seeing none, okay, we'll move forward from that. I do have several comment cards tonight on items that are not on the agenda, but I also have no comment cards on items on the consent agenda. So if someone wants to come up and comment on items on the consent agenda, when we finish with the cards, we can do that. So we're going to start with Ron Blicksilver. I know you all had to sit through the budget meeting, but we had to do it first. It's okay. Make sure it's on.
My name is Ron Blicksilver. I live in Royal Palm Beach since 2000 on Van Gogh Way, waterfront community. There was something that was said in the budget for Paul Webster. There was such a disparity between debris removal from one contractor to another. I'd like to know why there was such a disparity. Okay.
So,
He mentioned that debris removal.
Oh, I can answer that question if the mayor would.
Sure.
Because it's not quantifiable. It wasn't quantifiable as far as how much debris it needs to be removed. That's why.
Well, I might have a different point of view.
Well, bid it.
One contractor started piling up the debris on my lawn in the back and on my neighbor. When I stopped him, they put it on the other side of the canal, 4 feet deep and 3 feet high. I called Mr. Webster. I believe I spoke to Ray first. Paul Webster came down. Mike Cheatham came down. They're allowed to do that. It's an easement. I said, easement? Run a bulldozer over it, but don't leave your debris. You may have seen these signs. There were 6 of them on the canals. My home is not a waste treatment facility. Hire a contractor that can do the job. That's all we're asking. We have been kept in the dark as to what you're doing. Why not have a meeting with the residents? I mean, I feel like we need a representative to represent the canal owners to the council, to the public works. Why isn't this more open? You discuss it here tonight more than I ever heard it discussed before, and I don't come to the meetings that often, but we do have a problem. Deal with it. That's all we're asking.
Want to comment, Richard?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. I think this is an issue that has recurred. Bob's been here, I don't know how many years, so it's not like anything's been in the dark or anything's been hidden or it hasn't been discussed. This is an ongoing discussion for at least, Mr. Carter, I don't know if you're going to come up and talk tonight, but you know how long you've been coming and talking about the issue, so it's not something that is being hidden or isn't being addressed or handled in the most prudent way possible. I mean, do we have the magic bullet answer? No, we haven't come, but it's interesting. I have acknowledged over the years, Mr. Carter's come in and said, why don't you just go buy your own machine and come out and do this stuff? And lo and behold, that's what we've heard tonight. And that's, in my opinion, what the entire process is about. I mean, we have discussed at numerous meetings this exact issue, and Bob can attest to how many times he's come. So it's not something that's ever been hidden or in the dark and that the representatives up here haven't been aware of or addressed.
But have you addressed it to the public? Just to the point, the debris that was piled up stayed there for months until it compacted itself. They just had a situation where the machine ripped up or put some on this guy's lawn, and all of a sudden I take a look, they're putting sod down and watering it and everything. That's fine, but just tell us about it. There's just one other thing. I have a question for the attorney about the signs that you said that you would find out about if it's the right time to ask.
Well, just like you put signs up in your yard, that owner is able to put signs up in his yard. There is nothing we can do to regulate the content of those signs. It's not on any public property. We checked into it. It is on his private property.
Right, but there's no way to determine that it is his private property without fencing it.
No, it's pretty clear it's his private property. We were checking to see if it was in the swale. It's not.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment, sir. David McCollum?
David McCallum, 104 Majorca Court. Want to talk about the canals. Not only is the canals an eyesore, but the stench that's coming from the canals, not being able to use the canals. I'm also worried that the canals, with the amount of debris in them, if we actually get a heavy rain, it's going to clog up our system to where the water won't be able to get out, and we're going to end up getting flooding. I actually talked to Mr. Webster just a few minutes ago about different, more aggressive approaches to attack the system. The types of weeds that we're dealing with. You're going in there with a harvester, you're picking up the dead debris and you're cutting up the stuff, but you're really making it worse if you actually did a little research. This is a weed that grows, and if it's present, it'll continue to grow. If you do not attack the weed in an aggressive manner to get rid of it, it's just going to keep on coming back every year. We did not have this problem 7-8 years ago. It's a recent problem.
I'll tell you something interesting.
Wait,
hold on. I got a question for you. Hold on. Attack the weed more aggressively. What does that mean?
Well, evidently the weed is you've got a 21-day window where you're not allowed to spray this certain type of spray that they're using now. I did ask him for the chemicals that they were spraying. I'm going to get back with him later on that. But I'm not getting a notice on my door every month saying that they're spraying every month. I used to get a notice every month, 7-8 years ago. Every month I got a notice, and I know because I'm running my sprinkler systems at all times.
Okay.
So if they were spraying, I'd have dead grass when I don't shut it off for the spray. Okay. So I'm looking at the stuff, and it's logical. I live on the water. I'm watching these people go around. They're not spraying enough. Okay. I don't know what canals are spraying or where they're spraying, but they're not spraying behind my house every month. Because they're not spraying every month, we're having the problem. They're not addressing it aggressively enough in the winter. Lake Osborne had the same type of issue, a little bit different weed, but it's very very similar. Contact them. How did Lake Osborne take care of their situation? Because now you go in Lake Osborne, it's cleared out. Last year, you could walk on the water, just like we can do now. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir. I think it's Ian Hines? Ian, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name's Ian Hines. I live at 108 Mayoka Court, obviously neighbors of mine. We're all here for the same reason. We moved here in 2008-ish. My wife and I and our two kids now are teenagers, and we spend a lot of time in the canal. It's one of the favorite things that we like to do in the canal. I have a small 17, 18-foot boat that I keep back there. And my dog, just recently, my dog loves to go on the boat every night about a little bit earlier than this. He gets all excited because he goes on the boat. What he doesn't know is the reason he's going on the boat is so that I can clear out the weeds that are clogging up the bridges. And again, just like David said,
You use the boat to clear out the weeds?
Uh-huh.
By riding through it?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I have to because I have to bring my boat out through the ramp, which is right back over here.
Okay.
And if I can't get under the first bridge because of the weeds, and there was a couple of times last year that it was so clogged I couldn't get through. I mean, that's how bad it gets. So that's what my dog doesn't realize, is that I'm actually clearing the weeds, making sure that I can't get out because it's not in there all summer.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
It's just a concern, and
No, no.
that's why we're all here, is to
I
address
get
that
that.
concern. And I think you guys are heading in the right direction from what I heard tonight.
Well, you said since 2008, you have observed the problem increasing over the last
Getting
years?
progressively worse, and one of the things I didn't like what I heard tonight was the budget staying the same. Well, if the weeds are getting progressively worse, why aren't we throwing money at it to get?
Yeah, but there's a flex in there depending on if we need to do more to abate the problem. We'll just have to, they'll go through a request and we will allocate additional funds as we go through the year if that's necessary.
Right, and that's
So it's
one of
not a
the-
static
Right.
situation. in
And
that
that's one of the
regard.
things I liked.
Yeah, no, no.
I appreciated hearing tonight was
We've
we are
done that
doing stuff
before.
about it. We just
I'm
want
just-
a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I'm just concerned, we have all kinds of water problems these days in this part of the country, it seems. So I don't know, Ray, if you have any notion of why there's been a progression that it's gotten worse and worse over the years.
Well,
Climate change?
just went to a seminar on Lake Okeechobee, but I don't think we want to get into that right now. It's a man-made freshwater system, and it's warm. It's been warm all through this last winter, and there's been a significant amount of rain. That lends to aquatic vegetation growing really, really well. And you know, the reason he doesn't have as many notices on the door, we noticed every single time before. Now we notice when we have to by law, and we also put everything on the internet. So there is a place on the internet where whenever we're spraying, you can look there for it. But we're not putting notices on doors unless there's a mandate by law to do that. And our previous contractor was doing it whether it was required by law or not. So that's the difference you're seeing in notice. There's not been a difference in the amount that we're applying.
Okay.
I mean, we this will be, if we renew this contract with this contractor, it'll be the second year with this contractor. And this contract is twice what we were paying
I know,
to the
yeah, I know we
previous
did
contractors.
increase
So
the
we're not
budget
spending
significantly
less.
2 years ago, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input there. David Swift, you're up again. You can use this one. No? He likes that one. Okay.
David Swift.
I don't think your mic's on.
David Swift, Royal Palm Beach. I'd just like to talk about aquatic plant management 101 real quick. Basically, the canal, the capacity of a canal to move water depends on the size of its unobstructed volume where the water passes. The larger the volume, the greater the amount of water that it can pass. A canal that is obstructed by floating vegetation or submerged aquatic vegetation reduces that capacity to handle volume of floodwaters produced by a hurricane. And most everybody knows it. The question I have, Royal Palm Beach staff has discussed this problem, and it's currently controlling floating mats or hygrophila in our canals with, is the village discussing this problem with South Florida Water Management staff, specifically about control of hydrilla in our canals? Why do I say this? Hygrophila is the problem that you're having out there, and that comes from Miami. It probably came on a boat of one of our contractors up here, and they deposited in our canals, and it's growing. It's all over Miami-Dade County. The South Florida Water Management deals with this on a daily basis. I would like to know if we have contacted the Water Management District to ask how they treat their canals regarding this problem. I don't know if we've done that or not. But what I'm really trying to get at is, in the case of a hurricane, do these mats out here pose a problem for flooding of our canal? In other words, can they get caught in the amyl grate? I would like to know, because I really don't know the answer, to actually call the Water Management Districts. There's a guy that actually operates the amyl gate. There's an automatic gate, and there's 4 other manual gates, and they raise them, shut them electronically. Does it pose a problem for the village? I don't know the answer to that.
You mean from a flooding standpoint?
From a flooding standpoint, based on the materials that we have here. I hope the answer is it doesn't. I don't think it does, but I don't know that answer, and many other people don't.
Yeah, but we have, the last several years, when we've had the hurricane seasons and we had the torrential down, we have coordinated with South Florida Management on timing of opening the able gates on both ends, the end that we control and the end that they control.
You go into automatic mode and it all happens. So anyways, the folks that live in the estates, your neighborhood, Mr. Valentis, and also in the older parts of the village, they have concerns about, are we getting down? Is this really a problem? And I don't know if it is. I would say offhand, I'm not really sure. I don't think it is, but I really would like to know for sure. I don't know about you guys.
Are we talking with South Florida Management about that issue?
Right, and that's kind of where I'm at. There's a lot of other issues out here. I have trouble going fishing, and I don't live on the canal. I think it looks like hell, but that's my major issue. Thank you.
The answer is yes. Paul does talk to people at Water Management. He does talk to people at Indian Trail. The answer to the flood threat, no, it does not pose a flood threat to the this stuff actually in a heavy flow will go, that amyl gate is it's an automatic gate in the sense that its gravity opens with the differential head between the C51 and the our system, and it opens up as that head difference gets there, and the stuff washes right out.
Is this related at all to the split responsibility for the M1 canal, where the acreage has a responsibility, or is it ITID, and they're doing their part or not doing their part?
No, they're doing their part. They were paying us $22,000 a year. With the latest contract, we upped it and it went to the $64,000, and they agreed without hesitation to pay their half. Okay. They actually evaluated the bid. They have several canals obviously within their system too, and they maintain it, and they have looked at how we are doing it and our contractor that we're using, and they were completely in favor of it and contributed without their half without any hesitation.
You mentioned these plants that were brought up from the south.
Well, the plants themselves. I mean, Hygrophila has been here quite a while. The hydrilla was the problem 20 years ago, and the seed source is out there. It's out there in the air. It doesn't matter. It seems even if you pull the muck out and try to remove as much of the seed source as you can, it comes back. We have it in the canals. We cannot extinguish it from the canals. We would not know how to do that. I mean, even taking all the muck out, it's all over. It'll come back. It'll come back through the air, and it grows very, very rapidly.
Okay. Well, we have a battle here that we have to try to overcome continually. Okay. Okay. Fred Zinger.
Fred Eisinger, 110 Pepper Tree Crescent. Hello there.
Hello.
Gentleman raised the issue, which I thought was really the best one I've heard so far in terms of if you don't keep at it with an aggressive treatment, if that's what you want to do. And I question, and I'll get to my question about it, but if you're going to do it aggressively, you have to, otherwise, in other words, on a monthly basis, and it may be expensive, but that's the only way you're going to keep from eventually having such a volume of the stuff that you've been hearing about. I have the same experience. I'm not going to repeat it. You've heard it. But my question is this, for those of you that have had an aquarium in your home, you probably know, especially here in Florida with so much sunlight, that if you don't have some kind of a catfish, a suckermouth catfish, a Plecostomus, or an Chinese algae eater or something, you're going to have the same problem as the M1 canal. And that is the aggressive way in an aquarium of dealing with algae, which can eventually turn an aquarium so green that you can't see the fish in it.
So we should put catfish in the canals?
I have heard in Indiantown, this was the way people dealt with their swimming pools, and the algae problem was to throw suckermouth catfish. Now, I don't know whether that is the solution to this, but in terms of the University of Florida, the extension services, in terms of the biologists that are all over our state, I question whether spending all this money on the poison in this day and age is really what we have to do, whether there is a natural
environmental,
better way to do this. And for the fishermen out there that love to go by my house in the back and make noise, they would be so happy with all these fish.
But if we put the fish out there to kill, to do this battle for us, and we fish them, then we're taking them back. No?
They multiply. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
They'll outgrow the loss process, huh? Okay.
But here's the problem I wonder that if you're in the middle of all this, whether you're getting. There is a cost to this issue to each homeowner that's on both sides of that M1 canal. I'm sure you know about it, but if you don't, I would like to tell you. Every time you get a notice to turn off your irrigation system for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you run the chance that your pump is not coming back on. Just being stagnant, especially in this heat. If you're not running your pump on a regular basis, and I've been told, when I used to ask during rainy season, do I have to keep running my irrigation system because I'm just wasting water?
Yeah.
And they say, no, you've got to run it. You've got to periodically continue to run it or your pumps will not work. So there is a problem there. Then you got to let me keep going.
Finish your
Well, you're
comment.
like the county commissioners. I used to deal with you guys.
Finish your comment.
The machines are coming through the canal, and two things are happening to each. All the homeowners are in jeopardy of two things. First of all, those machines get too close to the property, and they are destroying the irrigation pipe that reaches out into the canal to bring in the water.
Right.
Okay? That's a problem, and another expense. And then the next expense is the debris. Under the best of circumstances, I guess, once you have that volume of debris floating on the surface or toward the surface, the pipes that are sticking out into the canal underwater have slits in them, grooves in them. That's where the water comes in. The debris is clogging up these pipes. You've got to call your irrigation guy out. He has to cut the pipe at the edge of the canal, on the edge of your property where it reaches out into the water. He has to drag the entire pipe onto shore. He has to spend an hour or two cleaning out that pipe, reattach it to the piece of pipe that's still existing on your property, go back out there, and oh, by the way, the little duckies that we're supposed to have floating on tops of our pipes, they're getting destroyed in this process as well. And they cost money at Home Depot too. So there are costs to the homeowners. And I submit to you that until you guys come to a conclusion about how to deal with this problem, you ought to think about what you want to do for all those homeowners who pay a higher price to buy those homes because of that canal and turn around and frankly get screwed, because then they end up on, is it a once-a-year basis? Is it a twice-a-year basis? They've got to repair their system. It's a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your information.
Robert Carter, 108 Pepper Tree Crescent, Royal Palm Beach, United States. The problem is with the irrigation, it's, I'm trying to figure out how to say this nicely. If people would fix something and when they're supposed to fix it, they don't fix it. The machine came in, the harvester came in, didn't go down the M1 canal at all. All the stuff from all the other finger canals goes in the middle to the M1 canal and clogged the whole M1 canal up. I had an operation. It's a little tipsy right now, but it's all right. The harvester does, should be picking up from M1 canal the opposite way around. Should go from the north to the south. Right? Should push the stuff because every one of the finger canals has a problem, and the problem is clogs up the rest of the drainage. And like the guys were talking about, is that going to affect when the storms come? It does. It's it goes up and then it goes down. Fred seen my property. He came by to my house, and the debris was across the whole canal, about 300, 400 feet, maybe 500 feet deep, long, by 150 feet or 200 feet for the canal was solid. And that was just recently. Okay, they bring a machine out, and they don't. I don't know why they don't want to go down the M1 canal. That's all I guess. I mean, everybody knows what I say every time anyway. It's a mess. And a couple guys, don't like me. That's what it seems like. Don't like me because I used to give them a lot of crap up here. And don't look at when it comes go down the M1 canal. Let's clean up for Bob. It's not for me alone. It's for everybody else on the M1 canal. It stinks. Don't go out to my pool. Why? Because that garbage. It's garbage, and the village can take care of it. I told them 7, 8 years ago how to take care of it. If would have took care of it at that time, there would have been that shit on the bottom. It's now every time it rains, it goes 100 feet that way, it goes 100, and when it stops raining, it goes 150 feet that way, and it comes back and forth. Today's my canal is clean, in front of my house, in front of my house. But any other time, it isn't. It goes both ways constantly. And you get a harvester in there. They had three right harvesters already, but they don't want to use it. They're afraid to spend some of the $89,000 you have in reserve. That's how you do it. That's what the money's there for. I bought that property because I had a boat there, and it was a little nicer. Well, it was a nice neighborhood, but it's just. There has to be something done. It should be done now, not 6 months. We're talking about a machine. Go buy it. I mean, a machine's going to. In 2-3 years, you own that machine. You get your money back. It's business. That's all that is. If you work it yourself, or you have 3 guys on it every day, keep them 3 guys. That's not $1 million for a year. They can work around there all year around the pond. It's like a park. It's just a playground for boaters. That's what it is. So it can be fixed, and it can be fixed immediately. I mean, you put 2 machines out there, right? Put them through the way you have to, and it's done. If you can't handle the job, get somebody that can. That's the bottom line.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that completes all of our comment cards that we received on items not on the agenda. If someone else would still like to comment on an item not on the agenda, please come up.
Sorry for the late submission. Thank you for seeing us. My name is Justin. This is Debbie Ranton, 114 Majorca Court. We recently moved into Royal Palm from Broward County about 3 years ago. We brought our whole family up to Royal Palm because we thought it was a nice, safe place to live, and we were looking for a great place to raise our family. When we came up to Royal Palm, the realtors were overwhelmed because It was the only house we saw, and we bought it right away because of the canal. I walked in the backyard, fell in love with the canal, fell in love with the backyard, the view, things like that. Saw some boaters, so I knew it was a navigable waterway, and it is anything but navigable right now. We can't enjoy any time in our backyard. As this gentleman was just saying, when we go back there, the smell of the weeds and just being out there, it's gross, it's overwhelming, and you can't be out there during the summer with your family enjoying it because of the weeds. As Mr. McCallum was stating, I also think we need to be more proactive. I think this year's already done. Last year, we had a worse, I think, worse if not equal to this year as far as the weeds. And, you know, this is 2 summers in a row now that, you know, it's pretty much ruined.
I had the girls out there on the kayaks, and I don't care if it's a motorboat or not. I can't even get under the bridge in a kayak, pushing as far as I can because you can't get through any of it. And it's very disgraceful when you're sitting on a phone and not listening to people when they're bringing it to you multiple times. It's frustrating because from what I'm hearing, this isn't the first time. I think there should be reallocation of funds if you're not fixing the problem. We had our group, you just commended community watches. Our little community watch, our entire block is nearly here because we're fed up with it. It's unacceptable to be in a meeting like this and not take heart or listen to what your community has to say to you. And if this is
why do you think we're not listening? We are listening. We are paying attention.
Your past year's practices are not proving that, though. You're saying you're listening, but if you're actually listening, are we fixing the problem?
He said 7
And
or
if we're
8
not fixing the
years he's come
problem,
with the same
something's
issue.
broken, what can we do to fix it?
And we're not here to bring a problem. We've talked about different things, and the gentleman who said catfish, I thought that was very good. And we've talked about even just this year a harvester, and these seem like things that are not rocket science. He's not paying attention again. But my issue is that it's very just the nature, the beauty of what the canal should look like. It's not there, and it's a distasteful feeling, and it's almost shameful to bring people to say, oh, look at my backyard, look at my home, and nothing's being done.
I assure you of this. I appreciate all of the comments, and thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate all the comments and feedback we've gotten this evening. This is not necessarily a new problem, but it does seem to it gets more aggressive against us every year, so we've got to get more aggressive.
I just want to say one thing, though. I don't know if anybody actually knows who I am, but I'm the one that puts on I don't alone put it on. I'm the one that kind of organizes the Christmas boat parade.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Now you do. I come by your house. Toot, toot. All right, but when we come around, we've been trying to organize a Christmas in July boat parade for a lot of years.
Come up to the mic.
Yeah, you may as well come up to the mic. Yeah.
Not bad.
Okay.
Figured everybody could hear.
No, but we want to record it. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, if you didn't hear me, I'm the guy that organizes the Christmas boat parade. Been doing it for, I think we're on year 9 or 10 now. I don't know how long we've been doing it. We've been trying for at least the past 5 years to do a Christmas in July boat parade, but
that's impossible with these.
It's impossible in the conditions that we're dealing with. We can't even get under the bridges, like they're saying. I mean, I can't even take my boat out of my little bitty area because it instantly overheats. Actually, it's on the lift right now. I can't even take it off the lift.
It overheats because
the weeds get sucked up into the engine,
okay,
and it can't cool off.
Okay.
So, you know, we're all dealing with things, and, you know, it is stuff for the community. We do have a concern about the drainage if a storm did come. You know, there's a lot of things here. I think we're all in agreement we need to be more aggressive with the problem. I know you guys are working on it. It's just...
No.
You know, like you said, the last couple of summers, they've been wasted. We're just here to try to get next summer saved.
Thank you very much. And
David McCallum.
Okay, David. As I was saying, I thank all of you for coming tonight and sharing with us the reality of the problem and how the problem has gotten more aggressively against us. I assure you, we have listened to you this evening, And I will assure you that we will get more aggressive with this. We're going to talk about this. I'm sure we're going to spend many hours reviewing some of the suggestions that were made. But I will tell you the net of this is we will get more aggressive and we will overcome this problem. Not sure what all of the nuances are that we're going to do that, but we do have a mindset to do this, and I don't want you back here next year this time telling me that we haven't licked this thing. That's for sure. So thank you all for coming very much, okay, and letting us know your concerns. With that, I have no comment cards on items that are on the consent agenda. If anyone wants to comment on the consent agenda, now would be the time. If not, I'm going to close comments on the consent agenda and ask Diane to read us the consent agenda. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Number 1, approval of the minutes of the council regular meeting of June 21st, 2018. 2, tentative adoption of the proposed millage rate of 1.9200 and approval of scheduled public hearings on September 6, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. and September 20th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. in the Village Meeting Hall. 3, approval and authorization in accordance with established policy to make a budget amendment for Fund 301 in the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget. Said amendment to transfer a total of $333,840 from undesignated fund balance 2719900 to Okeechobee Boulevard Lighting EN 1404. 4, approval and authorization in accordance with established policy to make a budget amendment for Fund 302 in the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget. Said amendment to transfer a total of $391,550 from undesignated fund balance 3919900 to RV Boat Parking 2 EN 1804. 5, approval of the bid award in the amount of $985,620.51 and authorization for the village manager to execute a contract with the lowest responsible bidder for project EN 1404, Okeechobee Lighting with Raw Global Networks LP. 6, approval of the bid award in the amount of $1,224,588.20 and authorization for the village manager to execute a contract with the lowest responsible bidder for project EN 1804 and EN 1502, RV Boat Parking Phase 2 with Amazon Construction. 7, approval and authorization for the village manager to execute the first addendum to agreement for park maintenance services between the village and LV Superior Landscaping Incorporated to provide for an additional 1-year term beginning October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019, for the same annual compensation of $50,106 and to provide for updated public records obligations. 8, approval and authorization for village manager to execute consultant services authorization number 10 with Allen Gerwig and Associates in the amount of $102,460 for structural engineering and surveying services. The project is funded within capital project number PW1806, Bridge Slope Stabilization. 9, approval and authorization for the mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement for funding with the Palm Beach Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO, doing business as the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency, TPA, and the Village of Royal Palm Beach. 10, approval and authorization for the mayor to execute the third addendum to the law enforcement service agreement by and between the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and the Village of Royal Palm Beach. 11, adoption of Resolution 1818, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, recognizing, acknowledging, and supporting the Florida Civil Rights Act, the Florida Fair Housing Act, Florida law governing non-discrimination at public lodging and public food service establishments, the Palm Beach County Equal Employment Ordinance, and the Palm Beach County Equal Opportunity to Housing and Places of Public Accommodation Ordinance, providing an effective date and for the purposes. 12, approval of a special event permit for Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office to hold a night out against crime at Target located at 10155 Okeechobee Boulevard on Friday, October 12, 2018 from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. 13, approval of an application for a special events permit by Amber's Animal Outreach to conduct their fundraiser at All Paws Animal Clinic located at 1011 State Road 7 on Sunday, October 21st, 2018, Sunday, December 2nd, 2018, and Sunday, April 7th, 2019, from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. 14, approval of a special event permit for the American Cancer Society to hold its annual Bark for Life fundraiser at Royal Palm Beach Commons on Saturday, November 3rd, 2018, from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. 15, approval of a special event permit for the Children's Tumor Foundation to hold its annual neurofibromatosis fundraiser at Royal Palm Beach Commons on Saturday, December 8th, 2018, from 7:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. And 16, appointment of Kevin Irwin to the Pension Plan Board.
Okay. If there are any questions on items contained in the consent agenda from members of council, seeing none,
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no opposed. Diane, please let the record show that this extensive consent agenda was approved, 5-0. Okay. We'll move now to the regular agenda. We have item 1 is the appointment of 5 regular members and 1 alternate member to the Education Advisory Board. Jeff, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We were pleased with the fact that for the 6 positions that we have to fill, 5 regular seats and 1 alternate seat on the Education Advisory Board, we actually had 8 applications, and they all, each one of the applicants brings something of significance and value to something like our Education Advisory Board. One of the things I want to remind all of us of was that we applied a criteria that, or I did anyway, in taking a look at these, the individual applications that we had recently generated, trying to put emphasis on getting some actual professional, experienced educators involved, parents who had children in the schools and were active and involved in groups like the PTOs, SACs, and things of that nature. And so that was a consideration, and so too is the fact that we're trying to get a staggered term for the members of the Education Advisory Board, and thereby splitting up the 5 regular board members between 3 3-year terms and 2 2-year terms, and then a 2-year term for the alternate. So with these things in mind, let me just say that what I did was, I'm sure what you all did, which is take a look at each one of the applications, and while looking at the criteria that we have in the revised resolution for the Education Advisory Board, and consider what each one brings. Beyond that, I asked each one of the applicants to actually meet with me in an interview, that we actually conducted. It turned out that each one of the interviews lasted about an hour each, so it was a really good conversation with each of the 8. And I tried a structured approach to deal with that interview, and consequently I had 7 questions that I posed to each one of the applicants to try to provide a good basis for comparison one to another. I'll tell you, it was really difficult, though, to make a selection, but I do have a recommendation for 6 individuals, and so without further ado, what I'll do is read through my recommendations, and I'll certainly be glad to answer any questions of the fellow council members about the individuals who have applied. So the first recommendation that I have is for Dr. Bill Talamer, for a regular position on the board for a 3-year term. When I interviewed him, his professional educational background was extremely impressive. He has a PhD in educational leadership, has set up IB programs at schools at all levels, and understands how to affect change in school systems, which is a really important thing. Beyond that, even locally, he is one of the founding members of the Watchdogs program, which is a program over at Royal Palm Beach Elementary that involves dads on a regular basis. The next recommendation is for a Miss Crystal Clark for a regular position on the board for a 3-year term. When I interviewed Ms. Clark, her understanding of school systems and school boards was very impressive. She served 6 years on a school board in the Chicago area as a member and 2 years as president of that board. She also taught at the high school level, and she has grandkids who are going to Palm Beach County schools, albeit not Royal Palm. The third recommendation that I would make is Miss Julie Highsmith for a regular position on the board for a 3-year term. Ms. Highsmith is a 32-year resident of Royal Palm Beach. She has 2 kids in Royal Palm schools. She has a new baby, and I suspect that she will also be attending these schools. She is serving her 2nd year as president of H.L. Johnson Elementary PTO and also serves on a magnet advisory board. Fourth recommendation I have is for Mr. Stephen Brown for a regular position on the board for a 2-year term. Mr. Brown is a retired school counselor, director of student personnel services for 32 years with the New York City school system. He understands the importance of student placement, is actually a psychotherapist who has trained teachers in recognizing student issues. The fifth recommendation I have is for Mr. Dwayne St. Hill, again for a regular position on the board for a 2-year term. Mr. St. Hill is currently a member of the Royal Palm Beach Elementary SAC, a member of the Watchdogs at Royal Palm Beach Elementary, a PTO volunteer at the school, and a volunteer wrestling coach at Royal Palm Beach High School. He has a son who is a student at Royal Palm Beach Elementary School. And the sixth recommendation I have is for Ms. Pam Shetka for the alternate position on the board for a 2-year term. Ms. Shetka is currently the PTO treasurer. This will be her 2nd year with H.L. Johnson Elementary, is serving as co-chair of the school's Garden and Beautification Committee, and has served as a volunteer in other areas within H.L. Johnson. She has a son attending H.L. Johnson and a 3-year-old daughter who will be attending H.L. Johnson, who is currently actually attending a rec center's early childhood adventure program. So those are the 6 recommendations and kind of my top-level rationale for those.
All of the recommendations meet the criteria that we had established, which really was already in place. We just reiterated what was already in place.
Yes.
Okay.
From my point of view, they do.
If there are no questions from members on council, I'll look for motion.
Actually, I do have a couple questions. Is that there's one gentleman, Robert Kreitzman, who has the extensive knowledge of our local area schools and community, who's very active in there, and why he wasn't considered over some of the others that have out-of-state knowledge.
Okay, my response to that is simply that the out-of-state knowledge people are the ones who are professional educators. Again, that was one of the criteria that we were placing emphasis on, trying to integrate and put together a board that would have both the local knowledge of individuals who are currently involved as parents of students, at PTO members and folks like that. The out-of-state reference you just made, again, applies to 2 of the 3 recommendations that I made as professional educators.
Right, so the criteria that you just went through as far as the PTO knowledge, the information with the community, having children in the school, he does fit all that criteria. I mean, his daughter just graduated, but has that extensive knowledge of the 25 years in the community doing all of that stuff.
So according to his resume, it's 15 years, but to be accurate with this, one of the concerns that I had is what you just said a moment ago. And while I was talking to the gentleman, actually, that was something, and I did mention it to him after the interview. It's unfortunate that he no longer has a student in the school, and that was one of the criteria that we were trying to really weight because of the vested interest, the insight, and on an ongoing basis that we thought that that kind of individual would actually apply.
Well, but 3 of your recommendations never had a child in the local school system and currently don't either.
So you're mixing things here. And
No, I'm not mixing. I'm using your words, is that you're saying is your criteria that you went off of, but I'm saying is here somebody who fits that criteria
So
who wasn't chosen, but it's you went then with others that don't have that experience in the area as well.
would you restate your question, please?
My question is why Mr. Kreitzman wasn't considered if your criteria was all those when you have 4 people that were actually 3 specific ones that you added to that.
Selena.
Yeah. No, I'm asking because if that's the criteria, and I'm saying
Selena, you've asked a question. I think he's answered it.
No, he just asked me to repeat it.
I know, but I think he's already answered the question, and so I don't know what more.
I was just answering his question now.
Mr. Kreisman does not have a child in the program, and your 2 criteria were experience in the field of education or a member or parent, teacher organization, or a parent of somebody in the school system. Doesn't have a child in the school system, and then when it comes to education and experience in the field of education, the liaison chose the other 6 with having better experience. If there was a parent in that might have been different, but right now he's not a parent with a child in the education system, so now he's only basing it on the educational experience in the field of education, and the other 6 were recommended over him.
Any other questions from members on council? I just want to clarify this, that request a motion, and the motion is on the entire slate. It's not individual segmentation. It's the entire slate that's been recommended. I'd like to thank Jeff for his diligence on this. Our interview for each of them, I think it's significant time invested in terms of trying to really parse through this process and come up with your recommendations. So thank you for that, Jeff. I appreciate your question, absolutely, and that's no problem with that. But having said that, if there are no further questions, I'd like a motion.
Can I make the motion?
Sure.
Okay. I move that the slate that was just presented be approved.
A second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have no opposed?
Does it matter?
It sure matters. It's your vote. We have no opposed, right? All right. Diane, please let the record show that the motion was approved 5-0 for agenda item R1. And again, thanks not only to Jeff, but thanks to the council for, we all put a lot of time and diligence into this, and
Just so you know, I don't forget.
are you making a threat?
No, I don't forget. We'll talk. You asked me to come and you asked me to help you on multiple occasions.
Sir, you are out of order.
Let's get
You
the
are out of
captain
order,
out here. This is
okay?
not acceptable. We're not going to have threats to the dais. Yeah, that was a threat.
That was a threat.
What was said?
I don't forget.
All right. We have no further business before the council. We stand adjourned. Thank you all.